Declassified file. Authorization accepted.
Imagine if the excess fat in your body was alive. Imagine if your fat just walked away. Imagine if it became a living, thinking creature. An adipose. Maybe you'd be happy to see your spare pounds walk away, but you'd have to be really desperate to try the brand new weight loss program from Adipose Industries. It's a killer. It might seem to work wonders. Take one capsule every day for 3 weeks. And like I said, the fat literally walks away. Because the adipose capsule doesn't do what it's supposed to, it doesn't break down the fat and flush it away in your bloodstream at all. It takes all the excess fat and then it binds it together to form an adipose, a creature pulled together by the action of the capsule. And it isn't just made of the fat you don't need. The adipose creature takes tissue and blood and bone as well. You might want to lose some weight, but you don't want to lose everything. So don't worry about trying to understand all that stuff they tell you about breaking up triglycerides, because it's a lie.
100% legal, 100% effective.
It's all lies. And Miss Foster, who's in charge of Adipose Industries, isn't really Miss Foster at all. So you can ignore all her talk about how the adipose capsule is composed of a synthesized mobilizing lipase bound to a large protein molecule. Because Miss Foster is really matron Cophelia of the 5 Straighten Classabandi nursery fleet intergalactic class. She was sent to Earth by the Adiposian first family to foster a new generation of adipose children after their breeding planet was lost. And she's been making them out of human fat, lots of them. Over 1 million customers just in the London area. Lucky for them, she's been rumbled. Twice. Well, actually make that 3 times. And the adipose children she created have been taken into care by the Shadow Proclamation. They'll be fine. But if anyone else offers you a miracle way to lose weight, absolutely guaranteed. Run a mile. That should help you lose a few pounds.
Declassified file. Authorization accepted.
The 1st century BC was when it all changed, and no one was ready. But from evidence recently unearthed, we can at last work out what happened. Because the citizens of Pompeii faced a threat even more deadly than Volcano Day. Pyroviles. Creatures of rock and flame from the lost world of Pyrovilia. The account of Caecilius, one of the very few to escape from Pompeii, tells how the soothsayers and priestesses of Pompeii breathed in the dust of Mount Vesuvius and saw into the future. Except it wasn't dust, and it wasn't the real future. When the Pyroviles came, their alien essence got spread underground. Caecilius writes about how his own daughter breathed in the dust, and she was petrified. No, I mean really petrified, turned to stone. But it was too late for the high priestess of the Sibylline oracle. The Pyroviles can meld with humans, and the high priestess was well on the way to becoming the first of a new race. Human and Pyrovile combined. The Pyroviles planned to take over the whole human race. They had the technology to boil away the oceans and turn Earth into their new home planet. But we don't have to take some old Roman's word for it. There's archaeological evidence too. Huge footprints across bits of Pompeii. Unexplained marble sculptures, modern art, or alien circuit boards. And this intriguing plaque showing the family gods of the Caecilius family, all of which bear out his story. However improbable it might seem, that the world was saved from certain destruction by an extraordinary man from Wales. But despite this lapse of credibility, we now know for certain that something set off the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. And maybe, just maybe, it was a price worth paying. The deaths of almost everyone in ancient Pompeii, in return for the human race. The evidence is there. Evidence for a race of alien fire monsters, living magma creatures that try to take over the world. With findings unearthed by carefully monitored archaeological expeditions, it can't be denied. The discoveries are irrefutable. They're rock solid.
Declassified file. Authorization accepted.
They came from a distant world. They voyaged across the stars. They sought to find humanity, and all with one purpose: to serve. Or so we're told. The Ood, inhabitants of the Ood sphere, the perfect servants. Or so Ood operations want us to think. Established in 3914, they've been selling Ood for over a century, supplying over 50% of Galactic Central.
Here at the Double O, that's Ood Operations, we like to think of the Ood as our trusted friend.
Be skeptical about their sales pitch. Be careful when you deal with an Ood. And above all, beware the red eye. They might be an alien race, but there are no communication problems with an Ood. They can talk to you in their native language using their translator spheres, with a whole range of optional voices.
How are you today, Ood?
I'm perfectly well, thank you.
Ood Operations are proud to offer an Ood for every occasion. There are household, pilot, personal trainer, and, of course, military models. And since the Ood are mildly telepathic, they'll understand at once what you want. But there is a bit of a drawback. If you're using an Ood near a being with a powerful telepathic ability, like maybe an all-powerful demon from before the dawn of time or whatever, the Ood can be taken over by this mind control. If you see an Ood with red eyes, then red alert. Some handy tips. Basically, run. Just drop everything and get out of there. You can't argue with a possessed Ood. And don't even think of complaining to Ood Operations. Chief Executive Halpin just won't want to know. He's got enough problems of his own. As well as friends of the Ood campaigning for freedom of Ood kind, Red Eye is becoming an epidemic on the Ood sphere. There's evidence to suggest they prepare Ood before they sell them. The Ood might seem servile and happy, but it comes at a price. And that price is a lot more than the 50 credits you might be paying. With rumors of hind brain removal and armed guards to keep the raw Ood imprisoned, maybe friends of the Ood have a point. Because Chief Executive Halpin's predecessors found something under a glacier on the Ood sphere many years ago. Whatever it is, it's the key to the Red Eye and to the Ood themselves. And all we know is that it's now kept in Warehouse 15. And we've got our best brains on it.
Declassified file. Authorization accepted.
There's nothing more dangerous than a creature dedicated to war. A brutal race of warriors created and trained to kill. You know you're in trouble if you're at war with the Sontarans. Don't be fooled by their stature. These guys mean business. Everything a Sontaran does is ultimately to gain an advantage in their great war against the Rootness. They will attack anyone if they think it'll give them an advantage in the war. The Sontarans come from the high-gravity planet of Sontar, which is how they develop such strong physiques and muscles. Look at that. They reproduce by cloning at a rate of 1 million every 4 minutes in great muster parades. So all Sontarans look exactly the same. And they don't just clone themselves, they can create copies of their enemies, programmed to obey Sontaran orders, so you never know who's who. Survival data. How to deal with a Sontaran. They might be ruthless and brutal, But the Centaurans have a keen sense of honor. If you really want to wind him up, tell a Centauran he's without honor.
You dishonor me, sir!
Or that he's failed in his mission. A Centauran can only be stunned by a blow to the probic vent. That's a small hole at the back of the neck. The Centaurans believe this means they must always face their enemies, but don't let that stop you sneaking up behind them if you can. They might not have defeated the Rutens yet, but the Centaurans are amongst the most feared warrior races of the universe. And they've tried to claim Earth before, in medieval times, during the infamous Atmos incident, to the ravaged Earth of beyond the 30th century. There are even reports that the Centaurans dared to invade Gallifrey, fabled planet of the legendary Time Lords. But their greatest enemy remains the Rutens. They have been at war for thousands of years. The Rutens are glowing green jelly creatures from the cold, icy planet Ruta 3. They can kill with an electrocuting sting. Shocking. And there are rumors they can change their form to look like other races. But in a contest between green jellies and brutal warriors, I'd pick the Centaurans every time.
Classified file. Authorization accepted.
As the human race ventured further and further into space, there was one alien creature that went with us, a race that helped mine the ores needed and pioneer the first colony. The Hath. They might look monstrous and frightening. They might breathe nutrient liquid rather than air. They might have a hell of a temper, but they were there on the final frontier. Pioneers and prospectors. The Hath were happy to work with humanity to make the universe a better place. On an unnamed colony planet, a mixed team of humans and Hath were sent to adapt the ecosystem with a standard PT-306. The Hath are nothing if not inventive, using progenation machines to create new Hath and humans too. Just take a few cells from a donor and wallop! New person. Hath or human, created from those cells and immediately ready for work. Humans and Hath took sides, and things went from bad to really bad. Some bright spark realized he could recalibrate the machines to create soldiers, and things went from really bad to incredibly bad. Maybe worse. They were getting through about 20 sets of soldiers a day. The war was fought for generations over just a week. One person did a good job of reconciling the two sides and getting the colonization program back on track. The files don't say exactly who he was. They don't name his two female companions. They certainly don't mention that while he was there, his cells were taken and used to create his daughter. But they do say that he put things right, sorted it out, stopped the bloodshed, and brought peace between human and Hath. The files don't say it. But that's what he does. The Doctor.
Classified file. Authorization accepted.
There is documentary evidence of enormous mutated maggots. Giant spiders. There is empirical data about the insectoid wern of Andromeda, the butterfly people of Vortis, and the ant beetle Zarbi. But there is one large insect-derived species that we know even less about than the giant gastropods. The Vespiform. What we do know is based on supposition and rumor, story and mystery. We know the Vespiform in its true shape is similar to a wasp, a giant wasp, huge, massive. It is said the Vespiform went to war with the Quark rebels, but whether that's true is difficult to tell. The only confirmed sighting of a Vespiform on Earth was in India, close to the city of Delhi in 1885. Why the Vespiform came is a mystery. They are an ancient and wise race, and the Vespiform may have come to Earth to learn. Whatever the reason, it assumed a human form and called itself Christopher. Local legend has it the creature was drowned in the Great Monsoon. But not all Vespiform are as amiable. They have a fierce temper and sting that can kill. Some handy tips. Dealing with a Vespiform is much like dealing with any angry wasp, only 100 times more so. Forget the rolled up newspaper, unless you read the Gargantuan of Zophilofax Major, which has pages the size of Denmark. Run, hide, put a window or even a small building between you, or, if you can arrange it outside of monsoon season, you can drown the creature. The safest way to deal with a Vespiform is to find its telepathic recorder. The stories say it looks like a jewel, a crystal, and it holds part of the Vespiform's mind, its very essence. The Vespiform will do anything to keep that safe and closed. If you destroy it, you destroy the creature. There is only one Vespiform telepathic recorder known to exist on Earth. It was found in a lake near Edison Hall and bought for the archives when it came up for auction.
Go! Go! The gentleman at the back in the grey coat.
At your local auction house.
Classified file. Authorization accepted.
Almost every race in the universe has a fear of the dark. Because there's something in it. Always. Hiding in the shadows. Watching and waiting. Is the Vashta Narada. The darkness isn't always just darkness, you see. There might be something living inside it. The Vashta Narada, a swarm of blackness that can tear the flesh from you in an instant. They're called the piranhas of the air, and with good reason. They're not hiding in every shadow, but they could be in any shadow. If you feel cold and you think the lights just went out, that's the time to beware. Maybe it's cold and the lights just went out, or maybe not. Maybe you stepped on a shadow that isn't really a shadow at all. And if the Vashta Narada have you, then that's it. It'll get cold and your lights will go out. Some say they hatch from spores gathered in living wood, becoming a swarm in minutes. Others say the Vashta Narada are so resilient they can live through the death and pulping of the tree. They can live in paper made from the wood pulp. They can live inside books. Count the shadows. Always count the shadows and see what's casting them. If you see a shadow that's a shadow of nothing, you know you're in trouble. Some handy tips. Actually, there are no handy tips. Except, well, run. Avoid the dark. Keep out of the shadows. Stay in the light. Stay in the light, whatever light you can find. And if you step out of the darkness and into the light and you think it's fine and you're safe, don't be too sure.
Every day in a million days when the wind stands fair and the doctor comes to call, everybody lives. Sweet dreams, everyone.
Classified file. accepted.
There is a world where the ground is made of diamonds. A world that is bathed in brilliant extonic sunlight. A world so beautiful you'd never believe anything bad could happen or anything deadly could live there. You'd be so wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, and variations thereupon, welcome on board the Crusader.
There is a world called Midnight. It's a place of contrasts. The landscape is beautiful. Rocks made of diamonds glitter under a blazing sun. But that sun is extonic. If you're exposed to its light for just a fraction of a second without protection, you'll burn up. More than burn up. Vaporize. Talk about an all-over tan? This is all-over death. From flesh and bone to dust and ash in less time than it takes to blink. Nothing can live in an extonic environment. No life of any sort. Not carbon-based or hydrogen-based, not silicates, gas beings, not anything. So if you do hear rumors of a shadow glimpsed against the diamond rocks, of a dark shape seen running across the glittering landscape, of a creature that can eat its way into the brain and take over the speech of its host, that can steal someone's voice, and then maybe their thoughts, creeping into your head, whispering in your mind, turning you against your friends. Well, that's just crazy talk. How to stay alive and sane on Midnight. If you do visit Midnight, be sure to stay at the Leisure Palace. You'll be safe there, behind 15 feet of reinforced extonic-resistant finito glass. You can get a safe tan, and even dine in the famous anti-gravity restaurant. If you're determined to venture outside, then keep to the official tourist trips. If you want to make the 4-hour journey to the amazing Sapphire Waterfall, that's fine. Just so long as you stay inside the Armored Crusader 50-passenger vehicle. There's nothing out there. Nothing can live on the beautiful surface of Midnight. Nothing can even touch those diamonds. So nothing can get in. You'll be quite safe. 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 You'll be quite safe.
Classified file. Authorization accepted.
Every choice you make changes things. Every decision, large or small, has consequences, like the ripples in a pond when you chuck in a pebble or a brick. There's a group of creatures that thrive on those changes. They feed on them, exploit them, even make them happen. They're known colloquially as the Tricksters Brigade. Is there a trickster? No one knows. Maybe somewhere, when these creatures have a purpose. Work for someone. Or maybe it's just random, fun and games for them, potential energy taken from what-if events. The Tricksters Brigade have only been glimpsed. Maybe they are all different species. Or maybe they are all the same, a giant beetle scuttling up behind its victims, ready to leap on their back and cling there, absorbing the way your life could have been. Think how different your life could have been if you'd made just one different choice. A key decision. That's what the Tricksters Brigade are after. Maybe you can hear it scuttling up behind you, ready to leap on your back, ready to change your life in oh so many ways. It's after the what if, the might have been, the almost but nearly, once upon a time and sometime never. Once they take you back to that key moment, they have you.
Make the choice again,
It might seem innocent enough, like having your fortune told, just enough to let them inside your mind. Just enough for the creature to get close and attach itself to you as it creates a new history. Oh, usually time will compensate. Usually you won't notice anything odd. Except maybe now and again, glimpsed in your shadow or hiding in your reflection, something on your back. Some handy tips. Most people who get caught don't need to worry. Their changes are so slight, so tiny that you'd barely notice. But sometimes, the monster on your back reaches in far deeper, changes so much more. And the bigger the change, the more it takes to get your life back on track, the more energy the beetle creature absorbs. There's even a story about one person who had to die to get her life back. One person where the tiniest of changes had the direst of consequences. Not just for her, but for everyone. Of course, that's just a story. Just a what if or a might have been. But even so, you'd better choose wisely. Better make the right decisions. And above all, you'd better watch your back.
Again, Donna Noble, and change your mind.
Classified file. Authorization accepted.
There is one creature that is hated and feared throughout time and space. The most ruthless and terrible creatures in all creation. The Daleks. Grotesque mutations, the Daleks were born out of 1,000 years of war. The mutated remains of the once great Khaled race of the planet Skaro. The Dalek creature lives inside an armored casing. Part war machine, the Dalek casing is like a living battle tank, built out of polycarbide and Dalekanium. Its purpose is to exterminate. The Daleks hate all other life forms. Anything that isn't pure Dalek is their enemy. The Dalek creature inside the casing is housed in an environment chamber attached by clamps and connections that go directly into the flesh.
It's the sunlight, that's all it wants.
It can hear and sense things. It might look unwieldy, but the Daleks have anti-gravitational technology to levitate and fly. So running upstairs won't help one bit. The Dalek is also protected by a force field that can stop bullets. And it can kill with its projected energy weapon. Over time, the design of the Dalek casing hasn't changed much. The stalk at the top of the dome is an eye. The lower attachments are for manipulation and offensive action. It's evolved and developed, always becoming more powerful, more deadly. The Daleks are so dangerous that the Time Lords tried to stop them ever being created. They failed, and the Daleks and the Time Lords went to war. There were no winners in the Great Time War. The Time Lords were wiped out. It seemed that only the Doctor survived. The Time Lord who ended the war. But there were other survivors too. Against all odds, the Daleks escaped total destruction. How to deal with the Dalek. Some handy tips. In fact, just one tip. Don't even attempt it. You can't stand up to the Daleks, believe me. I've tried. But if you've got no choice, then arm yourself with bastic bullets. They might get through the Dalek's force field. Aim for the eyepiece. If the Dalek has a weak point, that's it. Keep clear of the sucker arm. It might not look too dangerous, but everything about a Dalek is designed to protect or to kill, as well as the eye and the gun. Daleks can be fitted with other attachments, like high-energy weapons and cutting tools. Oh, and one other piece of advice. Expect to die. No one can stand against the Daleks, except perhaps one man. The one they call the oncoming storm. The the last of the Time Lords. The Daleks' greatest enemy. The Doctor.
Declassified file. Authorization accepted.
Few people can truly be said to have changed the course of history. How many people have saved their own race from destruction, ensured the survival of their people to the very end of time itself, created life itself, and been responsible for the deaths of billions of people throughout all eternity? One man has done all that, and more. Davros, the man who created the Daleks. Crippled and confined to a special robotic wheelchair, Davros might seem frail and vulnerable. He has the use of only one prosthetic hand. His hearing, his sight, every one of his senses has been replaced or augmented. But like the Dalek casing, his chair is a complete life support system and command center. The Thals and the Khalids had been at war for 1,000 years when Davros was born. Even though he was terribly injured, he became the greatest scientist on the planet Skaro. Davros realized that the chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons used in the war were causing his people, the Khalids, to mutate. He conducted experiments to discover the ultimate form of that mutation, and then he tried to find a way to save the creatures his people would become. His creation was a travel machine powered by static electricity that provided life support and protection. The Dalek. But then Davros made genetic changes to the mutated creatures, changing their fundamental DNA to type 467-989. He removed the weaker emotions, like the feeling of pity.
Oh, you know nothing of any human, and that would be your downfall.
He made them hate everything that wasn't a Dalek. And because Davros wasn't a Dalek, as soon as they could manage without him, they killed him. He should have seen that coming. But time and again, the Daleks found they needed their creator. They needed his knowledge and genius, his expertise and his creativity. They recovered him, revived him, put him on trial, kept him as a pet. It doesn't matter where Davros is or how frail he seems to be. He remains one of the most dangerous beings in existence. How to deal with Davros? Don't be deceived. Davros might seem rational and intelligent, but he's completely mad. Mad as a hatter. And the worst thing is, wherever you find Davros, his Daleks won't be far away. Few people can be said to be irredeemable. But if there's one man in all of history who should have stayed dead, it's Davros, creator of the Daleks.